Welcome, one and all, to the very first episode of VGMporium, Video Game Music and More podcast. Something I've been wanting to needing to do for a while, and here it is finally. So, first I gotta say big thanks to Rob Nichols and Purnell of Rhythm and Pixels podcast for kind of finally giving me the inspirational kick in the arse to get this started. And so now here I am to share with you the video game musics of all kinds. Yeah. And now to tell you a bit about myself, your host. My name is AJ Reyes. I go by Rage Cage on social medias, on pretty much everywhere online. I make original chiptunes. I occasionally make a fool of myself beatboxing off the cuff or covering video game music. And other than that, I've generally just tended to lurk about, not being as interactive as I should be, but hoping to change that, especially with doing this here podcast. So pretty excited to finally get this started and see where it goes. And before I proceed any further, just a little disclaimer: I'm kind of recording this piecemeal, as I go. So there's gonna be it's recorded in different bits and parts. I haven't quite gotten the right setup yet, so please bear with me for these first few episodes, and hopefully I'll have a more consistent setup. So yeah. Now, as to the name VGMporium and how I came to that, it's a fun little story. I used to work at a candy store called Candy Strike Emporium, and we used to sell all kinds of stuff. Candies, old candies, stuff that our grandparents remember from way back when. All kinds of licorices. Toys, fudge, ice cream, and of course, the ever inescapable saltwater taffy. So it got me to thinking, VGMporium, that's kind of a cool name. It's like a big old store full of all kinds of video game music, classics that we all love, obscurities that we were just like, whoa, where did this come from? Even just original chiptunes, remixes, and then music inspired by that video game music that we love oh so much. So I'm hoping that you'll enjoy these sounds I'll be peddling to you, and you'll keep coming back for more, and I'll keep having new stuff in stock for you. But enough of my rambling here, so I'm going to tell you about the track that we came in on. Was first the title theme, and then the stage music for Higo, Nagato, Settsu, Owari, and Echyu, from the game Kenseiden on the Sega Master System, with an unknown composer. Now, as your ears could probably tell you, this here is the FM version, played through the YM2413 OPLL sound chip, which, according to most everything I've read, my Sega Master System should not have had. But somehow, it did, and, this is the first game I bought. I get it home, I'm excited, I pop in the cartridge, I turn it on, and these crazy sounds are coming out of my TV, and, up to this point, all I've ever experienced in home at friends' houses were Nintendos with their 8-bit sounds, and just simple square waves and everything, and hear FM music in the arcade, and that's the only place you hear it. And then here it is, right here, coming out of my TV, going into my little ears, and pretty much just blowing my mind. And all the music in this game has a very Japanese flavor, very traditional Japanese. Some of it's action-packed, like this one that's playing right now, or a little more subdued, laid back, without the drums and everything, or even ominous as the last stage is. The YM2413's preset patches are used pretty well here, because in some other games, like Alex Kidd and the Lost Stars, it can sound pretty cheesy. But whoever was the composer for this game, knew what he was doing with this thing. So yeah, it's big kudos. So the most basic way that you can explain this game is basically it's Castlevania in feudal Japan with yokai instead of classic movie monsters. The long of it is that you play as Hayato, who is on a mission to defeat the demon lord Nobunaga, and you must make your way to Edo through the different provinces of Japan, starting from west to east. And as you go along, you are defeating warlords and warlocks and gaining abilities as you do so. And unlike Castlevania, where it is more of a linear progression, you can actually choose to go to whichever province, so you can actually within like 3 stages to get to the final stage, but this is definitely not recommended because you wouldn't be able to get through said stage. It's better to go through the other stages, defeat the warlords and warlocks to gain the other sword skills, higher jump, what have you, to be able to make things a little easier on you. I personally hadn't beat this game until a few years ago via emulation when I was trying to rip the FM music that we're hearing right now. So that was a pretty fun experience to finally get to, beat this childhood game, which pretty much handed me my ass multiple times. And now I'm gonna play for you the next track that I pulled off the shelf for you. This track is called "Settle" from the game Cosmic Psycho, from the NEC PC 88/98, composed by Panda, Baki, and Ray. Well, howdy hi. That was Settle from Cosmic Psycho on the NEC PC 88/98, composed by Panda, Baki, and Ray. And that was a humdinger now, wasn't now? Yes, sir. Now my reasoning as to playing this one is actually one of the first VGMs I actually downloaded and listened to from VGM Rips, back when I started listening to music that way through an app called Modizer on my iPhone. And also, it is the track portion of the track I use for the ringtone for my wife, which I actually originally started using for when we first started going out. So it's kind of a silly little thing there. As to what kind of game it is, it's I believe it's like a sci-fi adventure game with a lot of adult themes, so nudity and explicit situations. Yeah, it's another one of those crazy Japanese PC adventure games, fun times. Well, as to those composers that, so Panda, or Akira Satou, seems to have done the total everything, like putting it together. Composition was provided by Baki, aka Hideaki Takashita, and Rei, or Ryu Takami, provided all the sound effects. Or at least this is what I can gather from the information I gathered from the .vgm and multiple sources online. And now I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what each of these fellas has done here. So for Akira Satou, they did the music for Dynamite Duke from the arcade, Raiden Triad on the Genesis, Yoshi's Cookie on both the Game Boy and NES. Let's see, my notes are a little disheveled here. So Hideki Takashita, mostly just composed this game, La Mal, Kimi Dake ni Aio, and Nikkei. Now Ryo Takami, I'm pretty sure most of you know, He's composed alongside with Ryu Umemoto on games like Eve Burst Error, Ground Seed, as well as the music for Rusty and so many other games. He's pretty much one of the VGM heavy hitters, if you will. And yeah, that's most of what I have to say about this game and this track. Just gonna continue on through this list of things I want to show you here. So the next track we're gonna be playing is Aubweichung from Saga Frontier 2 on the PlayStation, composed by Masashi Hamauzu. So please enjoy. That was Aubweichung from Saga Frontier 2 on the Sony PlayStation, composed by Masashi Hamauzu, and I hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. And this has got to be one of my personal favorite tracks of all time. Just that really big in your face, like warbly lead, the slightly dissonant pads in the background, the hi-hat just going, making that nice rhythm and beat. It kind of gets you pumped to explore this area that music plays in and go, beat up some monsters and some baddies with your steel dagger. And this leads into the composer of this music, Masashi Hamauzu. He got to start working on a few tracks for the game Front Mission Gun Hazard for Squaresoft, and he would stay with Squaresoft, working on Tollball Number 1 with various other composers. He eventually got to do his own first soundtrack with Chocobo Dungeon with a little handholding from Nobuo Uematsu, and then this is his first ever solo project, Saga Frontier 2, and then he would go on to become one of the big composers of Squaresoft. He would go on to compose music for Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII, be one of the main composers for Final Fantasy X, went on to compose all the music for Final Fantasy XIII, which at this point he had become the head music director for Squaresoft, preceding Nobuo Uematsu. And then sometime after this, he had left Squaresoft to start his own music production company, doing freelancing and all, and even did a side project called Imurat with a violinist. I can't remember her name, but some pretty interesting stuff there. Now, as you can probably tell by the name, Saga, this game is part of the Saga series, and it's also the second game after Saga Frontier, but these two games are very much unrelated story-wise and about everything else. As where most Saga games are pretty open-ended. You get to choose from up to 7 characters to play through scenarios, and you get to just explore all the worlds and everything. This game, Saga Frontier 2, is linear as to where you only get to choose like these scenarios set up for you, and you play as 2 main storylines, either through Gustav the 13th and his rise through being rejected prince and then becoming a force to be reckoned with. And then Will Knights, who is a a digger who hunts out the quells which channel the magic energy anima from the world, and he follows him, and then eventually you play as his son and then as his granddaughter, and then Will eventually joins you as like an old man. So like, and each of these scenarios plays through roughly 100 years or so. So it's pretty crazy there. And speaking of crazy, let's talk about the game's systems here. So with most RPGs, you would fight in battles, gain experience points, and level up. But in the Saga series, instead your attributes and your skills and your stats will level up individually. So say like you're in a battle, and depending on how you fight in that battle, like if you're using mostly physical attacks or magic attacks, or if like you're using like items or like kind of evasive techniques or whatever, your certain stats will level up individually. So like they'll go up like 1 or 2 points each. And in this game in particular, you have not only your stats but also your weapon stats, so like your skill with weapons, and each character has like an affinity with certain weapons. And then there's even the elemental like magics of anima that will level up depending on how much you use those as well. So it gets pretty in depth. And then also in battle, you will depending on how strong the enemies you are fighting and how how much you're using your particular like skills, you will spark a new technique. And then what's cool about this particular game is that at the beginning of battles, you'll have the choice to either do group battle or solo battle. So you choose which character you want. They'll go out there and it'll be more close up, and you'll go one-on-one with the enemy. And then in this, you get to choose different like basic attacks, like slash, backslash, feint, dodge, all these things. And then you can you'll go through and just use these one at a time, or if you use them in the right order, you'll spark a new technique. So it opens up for like some pretty fun stuff there. And it's really really in depth, and kind of you can get lost in it, though unfortunately the game is kind of unfinished, so there's some things that weren't fully realized. And but more or less, pretty much, I love this game. It was really fun. I've played through it multiple times. I think I've only beaten it once, because the last boss and the last bosses for each scenarios are like fucking just really, really hard. So fun times. And I hope that it gets the remastered treatment that Saga Frontier had just gotten last year. So I'm kind of keeping my eyes open for that. So fingers crossed. Now on to the next track I got here for you. I had to kind of go dig in the Pokemon section for a bit, but I found it, and here it is. It's a Ronalds theme from a Pokemon trading card game on the Game Boy, composed by Ichiro Shimakura. though that jam may have been a little dusty, it was funky fresh nonetheless. That was Ronalds' theme from Pokemon the Trading Card Game from the Game Boy, composed by Ichiro Shimakura. And I'll admit that I've always tended to like the music from this game more than from the mainline Pokemon games that had come out at this time, so that'd be Red, Blue, Gold, and Silver. And that fella, Ichiro Shimakura, would go on to create more music for the follow-up game, Pokemon Trading Card Game Game Boy 2, which never got released outside of Japan, which is unfortunate because the music in that is really, really good. But he also did music for, or sound effects for Saturn Bomberman and Bomberman 64, did music for Mario Parties 3, 4, 7, 8, 10, and U, and would be the sound director for Suikoden 5, amongst other games. So about this game, it's literally Pokemon the Trading Card Game, the video game, where you play as the protagonist. You go to these clubs to face the club masters, which there's 8 of them, to go then face the 4 Grand Masters, sounding familiar, to become the champion of the trading card game. But in your way is your rival Ronald, which this music plays for, and he's just kind of like a hot-headed, just get in your way, and he is your final foe before you become the champion. Again, sounding familiar. And through all this, you're collecting more cards, building up your deck, make it the best it can be, so you can get all the wins, so that you can be the very best, like no one ever was. Haha! Wasn't that funny? Maybe. For now, I'm going to be putting this one back on the shelf, someplace a little more visible, because we're definitely going to be coming back to it. But before I do that, a fun little story. Back in the late 90s, I was really into Transformers Beast Wars, and, I had the action figures, and I had one, which was not in the show, called Optimus Minor, which was kind of like a, monkey version of Optimus Prime. It was like a Transmetal something, but, there was a kid that had this game, and I wanted to play it, borrow it and play it, and he said, hey, you give me that action figure, and I'll let you borrow this and play this for as long as you like. So I did that, and I enjoyed the hell out of the game, played as much as I could, and then he wanted it back, so I gave it back, but I never got the Optimus Minor back. So thus was the lawlessness of the 90s. So yeah, good lesson there for you. So now moving on to the and more section of this podcast. So as previously I had said, I'm going to be playing for you video game music, as well as remixes, original chip tunes, and music inspired by the video game music. Now this isn't going to be the main format of every episode, but sometimes every once in a while there might be a mix of them all, but for the most part an episode will be focused more purely on VGM, or remixes, or original chip tunes, or the inspired music. But for now, we got them all right here in this one, and the remix I have for you today it's called Turtle Wave, which is a remix of Let's Go Turtles from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 on the NES, remixed by Mazedude. So, this one is a real jam. Yes, now there were some good waves. What kind of waves? Turtle Wave, from a remix of Let's Go Turtles from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 on the NES and Famicom, a remix by Mazedude, but originally composed by, Kozo Nakamura, Yuichi Sakakura, and Tameo Tomita. So, goddamn. Where do I start with this one? Let's start with Mazedude, damn remixer extraordinaire. He's been doing remixes for like pretty much like the last 20 years. His first one was of Quarters of Time from Chrono Trigger back in 2001. So now I started using really using the internet back in like 2005, 2006, to mainly look for video game music. And what do I find are remixes of varying qualities. I will be elaborating more on that in a future episode. But suffice to say, around the time I'm exploring, he drops this, and so it's the first of his remixes I've listened to, and I was just literally like blown away as to like how did he do this to something I remember hearing when I was playing the game as a kid, and turn it into just something so amazing. And so this kind of like opened a new world for me, finding just so much like cool music that I could actually enjoy listening to, because in that time I wasn't really into like popular music, so like music that my friends were listening to, stuff that was playing on the radio, stuff that people say like is good, was good music, I didn't care for. But then actually finding these remixes of video game music I remember hearing as a kid, and of just such like amazing quality, was like a blessing. And speaking of blessings, this was my introduction to music made with trackers, which would take me about another 5 years to actually like figure out how to properly use. But this guy Mazedude is a next level master, and in which this remix was actually done in the style of a demo scener known as Wave, real name Joroen of Maniacs of Noise. And the particular song he based this style off of was 911, which actually I have a little clip of it here I can play for you so you can kind of hear for yourselves. And that was 911 by Wave, real name Joroen. And as you could hear, Mazedude used the sound, maybe not the exact styling of that track, but used the sound because he took the module, used the samples that were in that module, added his, some of his own samples and all, and kind of maybe changed some things a bit. But yeah, it's just kind of just really cool how he was able to do that, like mash these two things, you know, take the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, mash it with Wave, demo scene stuff, bam, you got this really awesome remix. I really encourage you to go check him out. It's you can find his music at Mazedude, MAZEDUDE.com, and you know, his whole back catalog of just like remixes upon remixes, as well as has a bunch of his original music as well. I mean, and again, he's a really, really good musician. So, you know, I can't stop, you know, saying his praises. It's some really good stuff. Now we're going to be moving on to our original chiptune section of this show. And we have many aisles of original chiptune music here at the VGMporium. Countless aisles. And this in particular one is we're going to be pulling from the NES Famicom original chiptunes. And this one is of the VRC6 variety. Let's see, this one is called Donna Kokyou Demo Akiramezu. It was made by Tony Tai for the Ubiquitune compilation called Equilibrium. And this one's going to be a real beautiful treat for your ears. was a wonderful bit of a Fami track in there. That was Donna, Kokyou, Demo, Akiramezu by Tony Tai made for the Ubik Tune compilation album Equilibrium. And so that the title, Donna, Kokyou, Demo, Akiramezu, translates to Never Give Up in Any Predicament. And, this track truly embodies that. It's like, it just kind of fills you with, like, this just, like, oomph of just, I can do this, and I'm not going to give up. And so now I'm going to give you a full-on nerd-ass breakdown of what's going on here. So, again, this was the original Famicom NES tune made in FamiTracker using the VRC6 expansion chip. So that's the regular NES sound chip, the 2A03, which has the 2 square, the triangle, the noise, and the sample channel, or like the the DPCM, I think it is. But this, like the VRC6, adds another 2 square waves and a sawtooth, so it gives it like more fuller sound, and which was used in the Japanese release of Castlevania 3 and a bunch of other a few other Konami games, because this was a sound chip made by Konami for their games. And you can just kind of hear it in there, just like the fullness, just like all the little trillies and going on in there, and the melodies, and then just like Tony's use of I think it's the Shakuhachi, sample in there at the beginning is just really just like kind of gives you those chills, and then that really fat triangle just bass in there, and then his use of like the percussion and everything, and just I don't know. It's just one of those tracks. It's just like kind of every time I listen to it, I hear something new in it. Even after 10 years I've been listening to this one, and I still hear like new little things in it. It's amazing. Now it's time for another one of Rage Cage's little story corners here. So I used to host a open mic for close to 10 years, and one night I decided, I was just so into this track that I decided to take the I've had FamiTracker open, I took the module, I just muted the percussion channel, the sample, like the percussion samples, and I just got up on stage, I hooked it in, I just played it, and I beatboxed to it, because, I was just feeling it, I was just really feeling it, it was just, it was really awesome, and people were just like, really liked it, It's just kind of one of those moments of like, okay, cool, I'm doing something that's really like people actually enjoy, and they kind of enjoyed this thing that I enjoyed too. So yeah, there you go. Now we're exiting the story corner for you, And again, it's a little corner here in the VGMporium. Just how like I remember Rayleigh's here in California, Rayleigh's had like a little kid corner where parents would leave their kids, and they could just like play with toys, board games. They'd have like a movie playing. Some of them maybe haven't had a game console in there, but the kids would just be playing in there, and then the parents would just come and pick them up, and then on the way out we'd pick up a VHS right there in the store. Remember that back when they actually had little VHS rental spots inside like supermarkets? It was a cool time. Okay, really exiting the story corner here. So telling you about Tony Tai. So this is a chiptunist, digital fusion madman. I don't know, he's done a lot. Like, I haven't really been keeping up with him lately, but I think he's still making music, I'd imagine. But yeah, his stuff is really, really good. It's one of my particular favorite ones to do once a year for some people's birthdays is a jazz fusion remix of the birthday theme. That's a really fun one. But yeah, I would encourage you to go check him out. I believe he's on Twitter, SoundCloud. You can find him on Bandcamp. I think YouTube. Just like I said, just look up Tony Tai, TonyThay, 2 words, Tony Tai, and yeah, you'll find some really awesome music. I would highly recommend you check this guy out. Now, getting into our music inspired by video game music's part of the podcast here. So now there's a lot of guys. So like Tony Kai also falls underneath this with his digital fusion stuff. But right now we're gonna be playing you Pakaderm Punch by Floorbaba from their first album Game Wave, released by Despop. that was Pakaderm Punch by Floorbaba from their debut album, Game Wave, released by the net label Despop back in 2015. Damn, it's been 7 years of listening to this fine collection of genre-bending ear candy. Speaking of ears, as you could hear, they started this track out kind of like, using some of those, like the samples from Yoshi's Island, but then it crashes into this just like really just full kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, kind of hip-hoppy, kind of jazzy, kind of, I don't know, just so many things. This track just kind of keeps popping up in my head, and I'll just like, hum it, doodle it, beatbox it, because it's just that melody and everything about it is just so catchy. I don't know, I really like this track. Now a bit about Floorbaba. I found them back in 2015, when this album came out, but I'd imagine they've been making some music since probably early 2010s or so. But yeah, they're a crazy genre-bending music whiz. And just this album, Game Wave itself, is just all over the place, going from kind of like this kind of smooth jazzy hip-hop to kind of like house jams to kind of cool game show vibey kind of wonky tunes, but all of them have this kind of underlying inspiration from video game music. At least I hear, because that's all I really listen to is video game music, and this music inspired by it. I'm pretty sure I'm not doing Floorbaba the best of justice here, so all I can say is just go listen to their music. You can find them on SoundCloud and Bandcamp. It's Floorbaba, Florbaba, one word together there. There's just, like I said, their music is just all over the place. They're always just pushing the boundaries of what can I do here? I'm gonna try this thing out, hash these things together, and I guarantee you that every one of their tracks is a certified banger. Oh man, is that the time already? Hey, well, it's about time to start kind of winding down and getting ready to close up shop here, but before we go, I'm going to play you one last track here, and it is Final Transmission from Mega Man Battle Network 3 on the Game Boy Advance, composed by Yoshino Aoki. And that was our last track of the day, Final Transmission from Mega Man Battle Network 3, composed by Yoshino Aoki. And this is a really fine farewell to a really good trilogy at the time of just some really solid games. And I remember seeing the article for this game, the first Mega Man Battle Network game, in Nintendo Bower, back in early 2000, maybe 1999. And I was just really excited about it because it was a new Mega Man game in a way I've never seen before for a system that was about to come out that I would probably never get. until later. And then, lo and behold, Christmas of 2001, what did I get? Is a Game Boy Advance. And the first game I got for it, Mega Man Battle Network. I was just so giddy and happy about it, and just turned it on and played it, and I just got sucked into it. Just everything about it, like the look of it, the gameplay, like the crazy weird, like just RPG elements, and then like the battle system was just so crazy and new to me, and then the music was just really good. It was like one of the just like really showcased like the Game Boy's sound system, like the using the DMG, the 2 square, the wave, and the noise, and then the direct sound for those nice fuzzy samples that had to be used for actual PCM sample playing or pre-recorded, like prearranged music. It just really pulled me in, and so then I had to get the next one as it came out, Mega Man Battle Network 2, and then when 3 came out, I just had to go get it. But this time they came out with blue and white, trying to kind of do what Pokemon did. Have each game had slightly different chips and maybe a different bosses in it and stuff but when I got was blue, and I played it all the way through, and I felt it was just a really solid, this is like building upon like what the first 2 games had done and just like perfecting it, and I felt it was a perfect send-off for what was a solid trilogy until they came out with the weird wonky thing that was Mega Man Battle Network 4, and then 5 came out and that was better, and then 6 came out and it almost touched what 3 did, but I'm just rambling though here, so let me get on to what about Yoshino Aoki. It looks like she started with Capcom doing the music arrangement for Mega Man X3 for the PlayStation and Saturn versions. Went on to do the music for Breath of Fire's 3 and 4. Also, composed the music for Super Gem Fighter Mini Mix, and then started doing music for the Mega Man Battle Network series for 2, and then went on to do music for MMBN 5 and 6. As well as the music for the Mega Man Star Force trilogy on the DS. She then left Capcom to co-found the music studio Unique Note with another ex-Capcom composer Tetsuya Shibata, and then went on to be one of the co-composers for Final Fantasy 15 and some of the other related games that came out along with it, like the episodes and all. And lastly, she did some arrangements for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And with that, I'm gonna get ready to close down here. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this first episode of VGMporium. It was a pretty exciting, a little nerve-wracking to do this, but finally getting it done. And I have so many idea for episodes just like planned out here. And just a little forewarning: there's going to possibly be some employees coming in to host some of the episodes. I'm going to kind of leave it at that. You're going to find out what that means. And then also at some point I'm going to be bringing in some of my close buddies to kind of talk about some music, some of the video game music as well. Like, some subjects they want to talk about, and maybe some random things and all. But, it's going to be a good time, a good fun time. And, just come on back. We're going to be open, we'll open back up again another day, and come on back. We have so much in stock for you that I feel like we're not going to run out of stock here anytime soon of just so much awesome video game music. We got massive selection for you. So, yeah, again, thank you so much for listening, and I'd just like to give another shout out thanks to Robin Purnell of Rhythm and Pixels for again, like for those bonus beats episodes that finally turned this seed into a sprout that's gonna hopefully grow into a big old tree like they did. And thanks to Justin and Mike over at XVGM Radio podcast for being the first actual VGM podcast that I interacted with. And then a thanks to the boys over at Pixelated Audio for being my first VGM podcast I started listening to back in, like 2016. And also a thank you to Alex Messenger of a VGM Journey for just that out of the blue conversation we had on that, I don't know what it is, that Twitter space thing. You were hosting a conversation of VGM with a few other folks, and just some of the inspirational words you gave me, just the advice and tips and stuff. And thank you all for just giving me the inspiration I needed to just get this going. And with that, I'm your host, AJ Reyes, Rage Cage. Again, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm gonna start doing YouTube stuff. And my name's spelled out RAYJ, KAYJ. And also, you can start finding stuff at VGMporium, on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And hopefully most podcatchers, if you're listening to this, hopefully I figured it out by now. So have yourself a good day, and I hope to see you here again next time at the VGMporium.